If you are watching this right now, stop for a moment, because this is not a coincidence. Out of millions of videos online, you clicked on this one. That means something. You are special. God has led you here because He knows what you're facing, and He knows what you've been praying for. Maybe it looks impossible right now. Maybe the situation feels too big. Maybe you've tried everything and nothing seems to change. But hear this clearly today: believe God for the impossible. Because what looks impossible to you is not difficult for God. What feels out of reach is already in His control. Even when you cannot see a way, God is already making one behind the scenes. And now a good shift is coming into your life. The same situation that made you doubt will soon become the reason you believe stronger. The same problem that looked permanent will begin to change. Your life is about to move in a direction that reminds you that nothing is impossible with God. Your life is about to change. Before we go any further, take a step of faith right now. Like this video, subscribe to this channel, and help us reach 10,000 subscribers so this message of hope can reach others who are facing impossible situations. And in the comments, type 99 as a declaration that you believe God is about to do the impossible in your life. Stay with me, because what God is about to do may be bigger than anything you have imagined. There are moments in life when everything around you says, it's over. The doors are closed, the opportunities are gone, the report doesn't look good, and the people you trusted have walked away. It feels like you've reached the end of the road. But I came to remind you of something today. Just because it looks impossible to you doesn't mean it's impossible for God. God is not limited by what limits you. He's not restricted by time, by resources, by people, or by circumstances. What seems too far gone for you is just getting started for Him. You may not see a way, but God already has a way prepared. You may not understand how it will happen, but He doesn't need your understanding. He needs your belief. Faith begins where logic ends. If you can figure it out, you don't need God. But when you reach a point where it doesn't make sense anymore, where the numbers don't add up, where the doors won't open, that's where faith steps in. That's where you have to say, God, I don't see it, but I believe you're working. Some of you are in situations right now that look permanent. The delay has been too long. The pain has been too deep. The struggle has been too real. And the enemy keeps whispering, it's never going to change. But don't believe that lie. Your current situation is not your final destination. What you're facing is not bigger than your God. In fact, the bigger the problem, the greater the opportunity for God to show His power. When it's impossible for you, it's the perfect setup for a miracle. God loves situations where only He can get the credit. You have to make a decision. You're not going to live based on what you see. You're going to live based on what God said. Even when the circumstances say no, you keep saying, God said yes. Even when it feels like nothing is happening, you keep believing that something is shifting behind the scenes. Don't let your words cancel your miracle. Too many people pray for something and then speak against it. They say, it's never going to work out. I'll never get better. I'll never succeed. No, your words have power. Start speaking life. Start declaring, God is making a way for me. My breakthrough is coming. This situation is turning around. You may not see it yet, but God is already working. Every delay is not a denial. Sometimes God is preparing things you can't see. He's aligning the right people, the right timing, the right opportunities. What looks like nothing is happening is actually everything coming together. And here's the beautiful thing. God doesn't just do ordinary. He does suddenly. One moment you're struggling, the next moment everything shifts. One phone call, one opportunity, one breakthrough, and your whole life changes. That's the kind of God you serve. So don't give up now. You're closer than you think. The miracle you've been praying for, the breakthrough you've been waiting on, it's not as far away as it feels. Keep believing. Keep trusting. Keep expecting. Because when you believe God for the impossible, you position yourself to see the extraordinary. And one day you're going to look back and say, only God could have done this. There are moments in life when everything around you tries to convince you that you've reached your limit. The situation looks final. The doors seem permanently closed, and the odds are stacked so high against you that it feels impossible to climb over them. You look at your resources, your connections, your past mistakes, and you begin to believe that maybe this is as far as you can go. But what you have to understand is this God is not limited by your situation. What limits you does not limit Him. The boundaries you see are not boundaries to God. The obstacles that look immovable to you are nothing more than opportunities for Him to show His power. You may be looking at your life through the lens of what's possible in the natural, but God operates in the supernatural. He is not restricted by what you see, by what you feel, or by what others have said about you. You might be in a situation right now where everything feels stuck. Maybe the progress you hoped for hasn't come. Maybe the doors you knocked on didn't open. Maybe the people you depended on let you down. And now it's easy to believe that nothing is going to change. But just because you don't see movement doesn't mean God isn't working. Behind the scenes, He is aligning things you cannot yet see. God doesn't need perfect conditions to move in your life. He doesn't need everything to be in place before He steps in. In fact, He often does His greatest work in the middle of chaos, confusion, and uncertainty. When it looks like there's no way, that's when He makes a way. When it seems like it's too late, that's when He shows up right on time. Think about it. If everything were easy, if every door opened on the first try, if every prayer was answered instantly, you wouldn't need faith. But faith is what connects you to God's power. It's believing even when you don't see evidence. It's trusting even when it doesn't make sense. And when you choose to believe in the middle of uncertainty, you're making room for God to do something extraordinary. Don't make the mistake of measuring God's ability by your current circumstances. Your situation may look limited, but your God is unlimited. Your resources may be low, but His supply is endless. You may feel weak, but His strength is more than enough. What you see is temporary, but what God is doing is eternal. Sometimes we get so focused on what's not working that we forget who is in control. We start to think it all depends on us, our effort, our timing, our ability. But God is saying, take the pressure off yourself. I am still in charge. He knows how to open doors no one can shut. He knows how to bring opportunities that you couldn't have planned. He knows how to turn situations around in ways that will leave you amazed. You may not know how it's going to happen, and that's okay. You don't have to figure it out. God already has. Your job is not to understand every detail. Your job is to believe, to wake up each day and say, God, I trust you even when I don't see it. I believe you're working even when it feels quiet. Because the truth is, your situation is not permanent. What you're facing right now is just a chapter, not the whole story. God is still writing your story, and He's not finished yet. What looks like an ending could actually be the beginning of something greater than you ever imagined. So don't let your situation define your faith. Let your faith redefine your situation. Keep believing, keep trusting, and keep expecting. Because the same God who brought you this far is the same God who will take you further. And when He moves, it won't be limited by what you're going through. It will be greater than anything you could have ever imagined. There comes a point in life where logic can only take you so far. You analyze, you calculate, you weigh every option, and still nothing adds up. The doors don't open the way they should, the timing doesn't make sense, and the outcome you expected doesn't happen. In those moments, it's easy to feel stuck, confused, even discouraged. But this is exactly where something powerful begins. This is where faith steps in. Faith begins where logic ends. As long as everything makes sense, as long as you can explain it, as long as you can see how it's all going to work out, you're still operating in the natural. But God doesn't operate within the limits of human reasoning. His ways are higher, His plans are greater, and what He has in store for you often won't make sense at first. You may be looking at your situation right now and thinking, there's no way this can turn around. The numbers don't add up. The timeline seems off. The opportunity seems too far out of reach. Logic tells you to lower your expectations, to be realistic, to accept things as they are. But faith tells you something different. Faith says God is still in control. God is still working. And what looks impossible is still possible with Him. The truth is, if you wait until everything makes sense before you believe, you may never step into what God has prepared for you. Faith requires you to trust before you understand. It calls you to believe before you see results. It asks you to move forward even when you don't have all the answers. That's not always easy. Your mind will try to pull you back into what feels safe, what feels predictable, what feels logical. It will remind you of past disappointments, past failures, and tell you not to hope too much this time. But you have to make a decision. You're not going to let logic limit what God can do in your life. Sometimes God will place a promise in your heart that seems too big for your current reality. It won't match your qualifications, your resources, or your situation. And that's on purpose. Because if it were something you could accomplish on your own, it wouldn't require faith. But when it's bigger than you, when it stretches you, when it pushes you beyond your comfort zone, that's when you know God is involved. Faith is not denying reality. It's choosing to believe that God has the final say over your reality. It's looking at a situation that says now and still believing God can say wise. It's standing in the middle of uncertainty and declaring that something is shifting, even if you can't see it yet. You may not understand how things are going to come together, but you don't need to. God is already working out details you can't see. He's making connections, opening doors, and aligning opportunities in ways that will only make sense later. One day, you'll look back and realize that what seemed confusing was actually part of a greater plan. Don't let the need for understanding stop you from believing. Some of the greatest breakthroughs happen when you choose faith over logic. When you say, God, I don't see how, but I trust you anyway. That kind of faith moves mountains. That kind of faith opens doors no one can shut. So even if it doesn't make sense right now, keep believing. Even if the path isn't clear, keep moving forward. Even if the odds are against you, keep trusting that God is for you. Because when logic runs out, faith rises up. And when faith rises, the impossible begins to become possible. There are seasons in life when what you're facing doesn't just look difficult. It looks completely impossible. You've tried everything you know to do. You've prayed, you've waited, you've worked, and still nothing has changed. The situation feels stuck, the breakthrough feels delayed, and deep down you start to wonder if it's ever going to turn around. But what if the very thing that looks impossible to you is actually an opportunity for God to show up in a greater way? God is not intimidated by what intimidates you. He's not discouraged by what discourages you. In fact, the situations that look the most impossible are often the very places where He does His greatest work. When you reach the end of your ability, you're not at the end, you're at the beginning of God's ability. We often think that God works best when everything is in order, when all the pieces are in place, when the path is clear. But time and time again, God shows that He specializes in the opposite. He steps into situations that are broken, delayed, and unlikely, and turns them into something powerful. Why? So that when it happens, there's no doubt that it was Him. If it were easy, you could take the credit. If it made sense, you could explain it away. But when it's impossible, when there's no logical way it should have worked out, that's when God gets the glory. That's when people look at your life and say, there's no way that could have happened without God. You may be in a situation right now that feels too far gone. Maybe it's a relationship that seems beyond repair, a dream that feels out of reach, a door that has been closed for too long. Everything around you is saying, it's over. But God is saying, I'm just getting started. What you see as a dead end, God sees as a setup. What you see as a delay, God sees as preparation. What you see as impossible, God sees as an opportunity. An opportunity to bring healing where there was pain. An opportunity to restore what was lost. An opportunity to open doors you never thought possible. But here's the key. You have to keep believing even when it looks like nothing is happening. It's easy to have faith when things are going your way. It's easy to believe when the progress is visible. But real faith is built in the moments when you don't see any signs, when the situation looks unchanged, when the impossible still looks impossible. Don't let what you see cause you to lose hope. Just because you don't see movement doesn't mean God isn't moving. He is working behind the scenes, arranging things in ways you can't yet understand. Every prayer you've prayed, every tear you've cried, every moment you've held on, it all matters. And suddenly things can shift. One moment everything looks the same, and the next moment everything changes. One opportunity, one connection, one breakthrough. And what once seemed impossible becomes your reality. That's how God works. He doesn't just do enough. He does more than you imagined. So don't give up on what God placed in your heart. Don't walk away just because it's taking longer than you expected. The impossibility of your situation is not a sign to quit. It's a sign that God has an opportunity to do something extraordinary. Keep believing. Keep trusting. Keep expecting. Because what seems impossible to you is not a problem for God. It's an invitation for Him to move in a way that will leave you amazed. There are moments in life when the struggle feels so heavy, so constant, that it starts to define how you see yourself and your future. You wake up carrying the same burden, facing the same challenges, and after a while, it's easy to believe that this is just how your story is going to end. The pain feels permanent. The delay feels final. The disappointment feels like it has the last word. But you have to remind yourself of this truth. Your current struggle is not your final story. What you're going through right now is a chapter, not the conclusion. It may be a difficult chapter, a confusing chapter, even a painful chapter, but it is not the end. God is still writing your story, and He doesn't end stories in defeat. He doesn't stop in the middle of hardship. He finishes what He starts, and what He starts always leads to something greater than you imagined. Sometimes the struggle makes you feel like you've fallen behind, like you've missed your moment, like others are moving forward while you're stuck in the same place. But just because your journey looks different doesn't mean it's going wrong. God's timing is not your timing, and His plan is not limited by what you see happening around you. There is purpose in what you're facing, even if you don't understand it yet. The pressure you feel is not there to break you, it's there to build you. The challenges you're facing are not there to stop you, they're there to strengthen you. Every setback, every delay, every closed door is shaping you into who you need to be for where you're going. It's easy to lose hope when things don't change as quickly as you expected. You prayed, you believed, you did your part, and still the situation looks the same. But just because you don't see progress doesn't mean there isn't progress. God is working in ways you can't see, preparing things you don't yet understand, aligning moments that will come together at the right time. You have to be careful not to let your current situation speak louder than God's promises. Your struggle may be loud, but it is not permanent. Your circumstances may feel overwhelming, but they are not in control. God is still in control, and He has the final say over your life. Don't let temporary pain cause you to give up on a permanent promise. What you're feeling right now is real, but it's not forever. There is still more ahead of you. More growth, more joy, more breakthrough, more favor. This is not where your story ends. In fact, some of the most powerful stories are the ones that went through the hardest seasons. The greatest victories often come after the toughest battles. And one day, you're going to look back at this moment and realize that what felt like the end was actually the turning point. God knows how to take what was meant to harm you and use it for your good. He knows how to take broken pieces and create something beautiful. He knows how to turn setbacks into setups and pain into purpose. Nothing you've been through is wasted. Every part of your journey is being used for something greater. So don't define your life by what you're going through right now. Don't let this season convince you that it's over. Lift your eyes beyond the struggle and remember who is writing your story. The same God who brought you this far is not going to leave you in the middle of the storm. Keep going. Keep believing. Keep trusting. Because your current struggle is not your final story. It's just the part where everything is about to change. There will be seasons in your life when you are doing all the right things, yet nothing seems to be changing. You're praying, you're believing, you're holding on, but the results you hoped for are nowhere in sight. The doors remain closed, the situation looks the same, and it feels like your words are falling into silence. In those moments, it's easy to get discouraged, to start doubting, and to wonder if anything is really happening. But this is where your faith matters the most, when you choose to speak faith even when you don't see results. Anyone can speak positively when things are going well. Anyone can declare victory when the evidence is right in front of them. But real faith is revealed when there is no visible progress, when the circumstances haven't changed, and yet you still choose to believe. It's in those quiet, uncertain moments that your words carry the greatest power. You have to understand that what you see is not the full picture. Just because you don't see movement doesn't mean nothing is happening. God is always working behind the scenes. He is arranging things you cannot yet see, aligning opportunities you didn't expect, and preparing breakthroughs that will come at the right time. Your job is not to control the outcome. Your job is to stay in faith. One of the biggest mistakes people make is allowing their words to reflect their circumstances instead of their faith. They say things like, "Nothing is working, it's never going to change," or "I'll always be stuck like this." But when you speak like that, you're agreeing with the limitation instead of agreeing with God. Your words have creative power. They can either build your future or block it. Even when it feels like nothing is happening, you have to keep declaring what God has promised. You have to say, "Something good is on the way. My breakthrough is coming. God is working in my favor." Even when there is no visible sign, you're not denying reality. You're declaring a higher reality. It's important to remember that delay does not mean denial. Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it won't happen. Timing is in God's hands, and He knows exactly when to release what you've been praying for. Sometimes the waiting season is where your faith is being strengthened, where your character is being developed, and where your trust in God is being deepened. There will be days when it feels like your faith is being stretched, days when you're tempted to give up, to stop believing, to stop speaking positively because it feels pointless. But don't let your feelings determine your faith. Feelings change, circumstances change, but God's promises remain the same. Every time you choose to speak faith, you are planting seeds. You may not see them growing right away, but that doesn't mean they're not taking root. In the right time, those seeds will produce a harvest. What you consistently declare will eventually become your reality. Keep your words aligned with what you believe, not with what you see. Even if it takes longer than you expected, even if the journey feels uncertain, stay consistent. There is power in persistence. There is strength in steady faith. And one day you will see the results. One day, what you've been speaking in faith will show up in your life. The doors will open, the situation will turn around, and the breakthrough will come. And when it does, you'll realize that every word of faith you spoke in the unseen season was preparing you for that moment. So don't stop now. Keep speaking life. Keep declaring victory. Keep believing beyond what your eyes can see. Because just because you don't see results yet doesn't mean God isn't about to do something incredible. There are seasons in life where everything feels slow, delayed, and uncertain. You're praying, you're believing, you're putting in the effort, but nothing seems to be moving. Days turn into weeks, weeks into months, and you start to wonder if anything will ever change. It feels like you're stuck in a waiting season, where progress is invisible and answers seem distant. But what you have to understand is this: just because it's taking time doesn't mean God isn't working. In fact, God specializes in suddenly moments. A suddenly moment is when everything shifts without warning. It's when what took so long to build up changes in an instant. One moment you're waiting, the next moment the door opens. One moment you're struggling, the next moment you're stepping into a breakthrough. That's the nature of how God works. He may take His time preparing it, but when He releases it, it happens quickly. We often focus on the waiting, but we forget about the sudden. We get discouraged because nothing seems to be happening. But behind the scenes, God is setting the stage for a moment that will change everything. Every delay has a purpose. Every quiet season is preparation. Every closed door is leading you to the right one. And when the timing is right, it won't be gradual, it will be sudden. You may be in a place right now where you've almost given up hope. You've been believing for a breakthrough, but it feels like it's taking too long. The opportunity hasn't come, the answer hasn't shown up, the situation hasn't improved. But don't mistake silence for absence. God is still present, still working, still preparing something greater than you can see. Sometimes God waits until it's impossible for you to fix it on your own. He waits until every option is exhausted, until every door you tried is closed, until you have no choice but to fully trust Him. And then suddenly He steps in, not partially, not slowly, but powerfully and completely. What's interesting is that when the suddenly happens, it often makes up for all the time you spent waiting. In one moment, God can do what would have taken years in the natural. He can restore lost time, open doors you never expected, bring connections you couldn't have planned, and shift your entire direction in a way that leaves you amazed. That's why you can't judge your future based on your present. Just because nothing has changed yet doesn't mean nothing will change. You could be one moment away from everything turning around. One phone call, one opportunity, one breakthrough. That's all it takes. And suddenly the same situation that once caused you stress becomes the testimony of what God has done. The challenge is to stay in faith during the waiting season. It's easy to believe when things are happening quickly, but it takes real faith to trust when everything feels still. You have to remind yourself that God is not working on your timeline, He's working on His, and His timing is always perfect. Don't let the delay convince you that it's not going to happen. Don't let the silence make you think you've been forgotten. What you're waiting on is not lost. It's being prepared. God is aligning things in your favor, putting the right pieces together, and making sure that when it happens, it will be exactly what you need at exactly the right time. You may not see it, but things are shifting. Situations are changing. Doors are being prepared. Even now, God is working in ways you cannot see. The breakthrough you've been praying for is closer than you think. The answer you've been waiting on is already on its way. And when it happens, it will remind you why the waiting was necessary. It will show you that every delay had a purpose. It will prove that God was never late. He was setting you up for something greater. Suddenly, the door that was closed will open. Suddenly, the opportunity you thought was gone will appear. Suddenly, the situation that seemed permanent will change. Suddenly, the healing will come, the provision will show up, the clarity will arrive. And in that moment, everything will make sense. You'll realize that God was not ignoring you. He was preparing you. He was strengthening your faith, building your character, and positioning you for something bigger than you were ready for before. The waiting was not wasted. It was necessary. So don't give up in the waiting season. Don't lose hope just because you haven't seen results yet. Your suddenly moment is not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And when it comes, it will come with power, with clarity, and with a sense of purpose that will change everything. Keep believing, keep trusting, keep expecting, because the same God who allowed the waiting is the same God who will bring the suddenly. And when He does, it won't just be a small change, it will be a defining moment in your life. One that reminds you that no delay is too long and no situation is too far gone for Him to turn around in an instant.